All right, let's talk about the Michigan Wolverines. This is obviously a program trending in the right direction with how they finished the 2024 campaign, making a lot of strong moves in the offseason so far. But they've recently made a really kind of surprising move, flipping the dynamic when it comes to a really quality recruit. I think it speaks to what Sharon Moore is building in Ann Arbor. Exciting news. But first, I'm Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. All right, this time of year, as we're going through visits, we got these young kids for future classes now, trying to figure out where they want to go. And obviously, programs, the big programs like Michigan, they're trying to sell out everything they can to get the top quality talent away from potential rivals and into their building, get them excited to play for the maize and blue here. And it looks like Sharon Moore and his staff have pulled off a pretty impressive move. Let's go into the report and then we'll talk about it more on the other side. This is courtesy of SI.com. Four-star behemoth defensive lineman Jermaine Kinsler was slated to visit the University of Florida this weekend. According to recruiting insider Bryce Marich, that plan has been scrapped, and the 6'7", 260-pound lineman will be in Ann Arbor instead. It's always a win when you can convince a kid to change his plans in favor of your school. Kinsler is rated as a number 180 player in the 2026 class and will bring fellow four-star cornerback teammate Jordan Thomas as well as some family members along for the trip. I think getting recruits to change minds and flip from a program like the Florida Gators, who, for those of you who aren't paying attention, have done a phenomenal job in recruiting and transfer portal and just the energy behind the program in Gainesville, a lot better than people think nationally. To get a kid to decide, I'm not going to visit Gainesville, it's January, for God's sakes. Like, it's a lot better in Florida than it is up in Michigan right now, at least in terms of the weather. But instead, you get a recruit to change his mind, wants to visit your campus. Great sign for Sharon Moore. Great sign for the Wolverines. Myers, I know you've got a few thoughts here, but first, Michigan fans in the comment section below. As we look toward the future, like we're talking 2026 now, what position group do you think the Wolverines have to focus on long term? We always ask you guys where they need to focus on short term. What immediate problems do they need to solve? But how about long term? Let us know what position group you think they need to address long term in the comment section below. But Mize, what are your thoughts on this latest news out of Ann Arbor?
Yeah, Nick, I think like what you said, you're going to visit Ann Arbor instead of Florida this time of year. I think it's really telling just how much Sharon Moore is able to flip these guys and, make them change their opinion, come over to Michigan. I think Michigan is running, and I think that's really an important key here. This isn't some schlub team in Florida. Last year, if you would have told me this, I would have been like, whatever. But this year, Florida really had a strong finish to the season. They look really good. There's a lot of momentum in Florida's corner with everything they have going on. Same for Michigan, but for them to flip him from going to visit Florida to come to see Michigan, I think that is very, very intriguing to me. But also, there's another thing that I'm seeing a trend that Sharon Moore is doing in recruiting that I think is very, very interesting. You look at this recruit here in Kinsler, number one player in the state of New Jersey. Very interesting. Sharon Moore goes after him, really targets number one player in the state of New Jersey because also recently this week there's a story that emerged. Sharon Moore also went to go visit the number one player in the state of Hawaii. I know these are kind of like outside of the, realm of the normal football recruiting world. New Jersey, Hawaii, not necessarily known as football powerhouses, but I think Sharon Moore is doing something interesting here, focusing not a ton of attention on going deep in players on these states, but getting the top level guys with the momentum they have, targeting these number one players in these states, try to get them to come to Ann Arbor. I think it's a really interesting tactic he has going on over there as well. So congrats to Sharon Moore. I think this is an interesting strategy. Hopefully it pays off. We're already seeing a little bit of momentum in regards to Kinsler flipping his visit to Florida to come visit Ann Arbor.
So Malcolm Gladwell's got an interesting book. He's got a lot of interesting books, but he talks about different people in different situations that they're connectors, right? And these are people that can just by nature of their personality or just their business or whatever, you talk to them, you work with them, you network with them, and you just network to a vast array of people, right? They're kind of your in. We all know those people, whether professionally or socially, they just seem to know everybody. They're connected to a bunch of different things, right? That's something sometimes you have to focus on in recruiting It's one thing if you're targeting a bunch of players, but that's really hard. There's literally hundreds top recruits, thousands potentially recruits across the entire country. What you're looking for, especially if you're going outside of your state, outside of your region, you're looking for connectors. You're looking for players that connect you to other potential players. And this report kind of highlights it, right? You've got a kid here in Kinsler who's bringing a teammate, a four-star recruit, to Ann Arbor to visit as well. This is a connector. This is a kid that you basically get two for the price of one. You recruit him hard, you get another guy with him. It doesn't sound like much, but being this strategically sound is really important for any program, especially a program like Michigan that's going up against just absolute behemoths in their conference with the Ohio States, with the Oregons, the Penn States, and programs like that. USC, of course, the Trojans being involved in there as well. Plus, there are obviously traditional competition like the Wisconsins and things like that of the world, Michigan State, of course. So again, you have to be very selective when you go nationally. A lot of programs, what they do is they go, okay, we're gonna go all in on this one guy. We think he's a great fit, so we're gonna go really hard for this one guy. And if they get him, great. If they don't, it's a letdown. What the Wolverines are doing here, what Sean Moore doing here is kind of next level thinking. He's like, okay, I'm gonna go after a good player who's also connected to some other good players and see if I can either get them all, or if I at least get this one guy, I then have a great chance to get them all. And maybe I do get them all for the price of one. This is really sound strategy. And in the era of NIL and the era of the transfer portal being as aggressive as it is, I think sometimes it's more about being casting a wider net, so to speak, and to really focus. Because if you really focus and go all in on one kid, there's a decent chance he leaves it next year, right? Some other program offers him more money or more playing time or whatever. But if you cast a wider net and you're not so dependent on one kid leaving, right? You've got a diverse set of talent across your national recruiting base. Again, it's sort of in the weeds. It's sort of very complicated, but I give Sharon Moore and the Michigan Wolverines a lot of credit. This is a unique strategy, and I think it'll pay dividends for them. Focusing on connectors, recruits that connect you to other recruits. I think we're going to see other programs going to copy that soon enough. This is a smart move by Michigan, and I think we're going to see a lot of great recruiting results because of it.